Hello everybody. Today we're flying from Cincinnati, Ohio to Sarasota, Florida. Hey guys, today's video is a flight from Cincinnati, Ohio to Sarasota, Florida. I had some requests from, after the last video posted, the video showing the flight from New York to Cincinnati, that there were some things in the video that some people didn't understand, you know, hey, explain what you're doing more, that kind of thing. So I'm going to try to do that more in this video. And I'm still going to abbreviate it because the flight is just under 2 hours, so once we get up to cruise and everything, I'll shut the cameras off and I'll start them back up again before we start our descent into Sarasota. It's a cold morning here in Cincinnati. It was -4 when I got up. Super cold. -4 Fahrenheit. So it's warmed up a little bit. It's above zero now, but it's still darn cold out there. Sarasota, I think it's going to be in the 70s today. When we get there, it'll probably be, upper 60s or something. But I'm in the hangar right now. The airplane's already pulled out. I'm on my way out to the airplane. The airplane's already pulled out. We've got power hooked up to it. A GPU, ground power unit they call it, that we'll use to help start the airplane so we don't wear down the airplane's batteries. And we'll run through some stuff. Let's go to Florida. Airplane, getting ready to start engines. A couple things we need to do is we need to get our weather, the local airport weather here, temperatures and stuff like that. We can figure out some speeds we'll use for takeoff depending on our weight. The other thing I wanted to do here before we get going, I wanted to run through a couple items that you'll see. I got a camera set up over here on what we call the PFD, which is the primary flight display. And this airplane is one of the more modern planes. It uses tapes instead of round gauges. Back in the old days, everything had round gauges, like for airspeed right here. These are backup gauges. They're called button gauges, or steam gauges we call them. So these are backup gauges if our electronic displays were to go out. We still have the old school steam gauges we call them. This one's airspeed. This is altitude, and this is a ADI, which tells us, which way is the ground, which way is the sky. Now we have everything digital, and it's all in one screen. So over here, this tape, we call it this is the speed tape. Right now it's sitting at 0 because we're just sitting on the ramp, not moving anywhere. But this is going to be, I have a camera set up to film this. It's rolling down the runway. A little crooked, but you'll still be able to see everything happen. These are our speeds. Over here is our altitude. Right now we're at, I haven't set the local altimeter yet, but we're right around 500 feet above sea level where we sit here at Lunken. And this is our attitude indicator, which tells us, which way is the ground, which way is the sky, just in case we can't see out the windows if we're in the clouds. And this is our, what we call DG, directional gyro, or basically our compass, which way we're heading. We don't have roads in the sky. We do it all by headings. And we set up a course in our computer, our FMS, our flight management system. I will set up a specific trip, a specific trip course that we're going to head, depending on which way ATC sends us, all the way to Sarasota. SRQ is where we're going, destination. So the first thing I'm going to do here is get our weather, which is comes across a certain frequency. It's broadcast. It's a recording. It's a recording here at the airport. I will pick up the weather, and then after that, I will get the clearance from the ground controller. We're constantly talking to somebody in an airplane, always. We'll get a clearance from the clearance delivery, and then we'll talk to ground control to get our permission to taxi on the ground, to drive on the ground to the runway we're going to take off on. And then we'll switch over to the tower frequency, which will give us clearance to take off and control us while we're in the local area, like the 5 miles around the airport, to keep us away from other airplanes. And then he'll switch us over to the departure control, which controls the area around Cincinnati, probably like a 30-mile radius around Cincinnati or something, up to like 10,000 feet. And then they switch us over to what's called a center. In the center, there's about a dozen centers in the United States, and within each one of those centers, there's different layers, depending on how high you are, but each one of them controls a section of the United States. And then when we come into Sarasota, it'll be the same thing. We'll switch over to approach, which will be Tampa approach. Sarasota doesn't have their own approach. Tampa controls them. And then over to Sarasota Tower, Sarasota Ground, right into the ramp where we park and shut down. So we're constantly talking to somebody. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and hook up the cables here, so you'll hear me get the weather, and you'll hear me ask for the clearance. And I am going to go through kind of the start sequence on the airplane, just for at least one engine, what I'm looking at here.
All right, I've got the frequency. I just typed into the weather.
1, dew point -16.
You can hear it broadcasting now.
3049.
Altimeter 3049.
Departing runway 21 left. Hazardous weather information for Indiana, Kentucky, and Ohio is available on high watts of flight service frequencies.
We have to set the altimeter according to the barometric pressure. Altimeters work off barometric pressure, so we have to set it to what the barometric pressure is for them to be altitude.
Visibility 10 miles. Skies clear below 2000. Temperature -11, dew point -16. Altimeter 3049.
All right, so there's our weather. I'm going to type in the ground control frequency, which is already here, 121.9. Go ahead and put the tower frequency in underneath that so I can do a quick swap later. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and get our clearance, and we'll see if it matches. This is our flight plan, which I did before I got to the airport, so we'll see if all this stuff matches up here. Lunken ground, Premier 46 Charlie Kilo, looking for a clearance down to Sarasota.
Premier 46 Charlie Kilo, Lunken ground, you're clear to Sarasota Airport as filed. Maintain 2,500. Expect flight level 41010 minutes after departure. Departure on 121.0, squawk 6644.
All right, cleared to Sarasota as filed, 2,500. We'll expect flight level 41010 minutes after. Departure is 121.0 and squawking 6644 for 46 Charlie Kilo.
Number 46 Charlie Kilo, read back correct.
All right, so you just heard a few things in there. One of them is our call sign. That's what we call our airplane. It's kind of like a serial number assigned to each airplane. 46 Charlie Kilo is that. He said as filed, so that's the way I filed it, which is out of here to the Lexington VOR, to a VOR down in Tennessee, and then there's a few other points. But up to 2,500 right after we take off, and then we'll expect flight level 410, which is 41,000 feet after we're in the air. He also gave us a departure frequency, which is the frequency we'll use after we take off when he says go to departure. And then 6644 is the squawk code he gave us, which is a discrete code that I put in. So every time the radar sweeps across and sees the airplane, they can code that to our call sign. They know exactly who we are. It's not just some dummy blip on a scope. It's actually all programmed in, and they know exactly who we are every time the radar sweeps across the airplane. It emits a signal with that code, which the computer knows on their radio scope. So anyway, we got a line guy standing out here waiting on us. So we'll get the first engine going here. He's waiting on us, wondering what the heck we're doing, probably. So we got our brake set. These are our engine instruments. I'm going to start the left engine first. You can see over here ITT is temperature. You're going to see that fire right up. Right now you can see the fuel temperature is -6 degrees Celsius. The oil temperature is 7. There's no oil pressure. It's actually showing 3. There's no fuel flow. FF is fuel flow. And N2 is our inner turbine speed. And this green one is our outer turbine. That's the big fan you can see just staring at the engine. But we're going to start the left engine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look out the window and see it's clear. I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to hit the left starter button. This airplane uses battery to turn the inner turbine. You're going to see the N2 start to spin up. And once it gets so fast, about 10%, we use a percentage for everything. Once it gets about 10%, I'm going to move the thrust lever forward and introduce fuel into the system, and it'll start the chain reaction of the engine starting. So it's a little more complex than starting a car, but still relatively easy. It's still easier than starting a a standard reciprocating engine, like a little prop job Cessna or something. All right, so here we go. I'm going to hit the starter button. Starter's energized. See the N2 spinning up. I just introduced fuel by bringing the lever forward. There's light off. Temperature's coming up. It just went to over 800 degrees Celsius in a matter of seconds. So these engine parts go through a lot of stress. All right, stabilizing. We got N1. The oil temperature will start coming up. We got good oil pressure. The fuel flow shot up. All right, so there's engine 1. We'll go ahead and do engine 2. All right, we got N2 rotation. Bringing the thrust lever out of cutoff. That introduced fuel flow. There's the light off. There goes the ITT up. Oil pressure's coming up. There we go. We got 2 good engines running. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the generators online, which will make the airplane run on its own power instead of that generator power cart back there. See the amp draw coming up on the left generator. Right generator. All right, they're sharing a load. Get some bleed air going. All right, and I'm going to set the camera down, clean some stuff up, and we'll get right back to you. Oh, we're up and going. All right, here we go. Rolling off the ramp. All right, just waving us out. All right. You're going to hear me make a call to the ground controller.
Clear to land.
Lunken ground, Premier 46 Charlie Kilo. We're at signature, ready to taxi.
Premier 46 Charlie Kilo, Lunken ground, runway 21 left. Taxi via Alpha. Cross 21 right at Alpha and hold short 25.
21 left via Alpha. We'll cross 21 right, and we'll hold short at 25. 6 Charlie Kilo.
6 Charlie Kilo. Did you say you had Foxtrot?
We do have Foxtrot. 6 Charlie Kilo.
Thank you.
All right, so you just gave us our instructions to get out to the runway. We're going to be departing runway 21 left today. Foxtrot is the weather we got. It's all coded by a letter, so every hour it updates, and every hour it gets a new letter. So the current weather is Foxtrot, which we did just get. And they usually like for you to tell them that when you call them. I didn't say that when I called, but the controller was being polite, just asking. All right, so coming up in the forward-facing camera, you probably see some flashing yellow lights. Those are to indicate that we're about to cross our runway. Right now we're on the taxiway, which is just a road to get out to the runway. The flashing yellow light means we're approaching a runway, saying, hey buddy, stop. You could be, crossing an active runway. But he told us to cross this runway, so we're going to keep on going. There's 2 runways. There's 2-1 left and 2-1 right. They're parallel runways. The 2-1 refers to the compass heading that they face. So This camera here, it's probably bouncing around as we're driving around. You can see the compass rose, and 21 refers to 210 degrees, which is what the runway is aligned with. So that's where we get the runway 21 from, 210 degrees. And then the other side of it is 3. The other runway, the other direction is runway 3, or 30 degrees. Alright. We'll do some last minute checklist items here. Most of them I did before I got the camera running just to save time.
Number 46 Charlie Kilo, Lunken Tower, cross runway 25, flying runway heading, runway 21 left, clear for takeoff, traffic 110 miles per hour.
We'll cross runway 25, clear for takeoff, runway 21 left, runway heading, 6 Charlie Kilo. Alright, he just cleared us for takeoff. All of our final checklist items are complete. I'm going to get some lights on here. This is the other runway. This is runway 25 we're crossing right now. We're going over here to runway 21 left. We're going to take off. We're going to follow the runway heading, which is 210 degrees, and we will level off at 2,500 feet. And you're going to see some speeds on the speed tape come up. They are to reference. The first one's going to be V1. That's going to be the speed at. Well, I'll explain all those when we get in the air here. But there's some speeds going to be coming down this side of the speed tape we're looking for. All right, our power's coming up even. Go, our power is set. Airspeed's alive. There's 80 knots. V1. VR. Let's start to rotate here. We're flying. There's a positive rate, so I'm going to bring the landing gear up. Flaps are coming up.
Number 46 Charlie Kilo, contact Cincinnati departure.
Going to departure, we'll see you, 6 Charlie Kilo. Cincinnati departure, Premier 46 Charlie Kilo. We're off Lunken, 2.1 for 2,500.
Number 46 Charlie Kilo, Cincinnati approach, ident.
There's the ident, 6 Charlie Kilo.
Number 46 Charlie Kilo, radar contact 3 miles southwest of Lunken at 2,500. Climb maintain 1-3000.
Up to 1-3000, 6 Charlie Kilo. Alright, controller just told us to climb to 1-3000. We'll keep that climb.
3541, Cincinnati approach, altimeter 3042, cross force at 14,000. Then nerve at 12,000.
Alright, so usually they don't let us go all the way up to 1-3000, right? To 13,000. They keep us low. This is great. We get to climb right here. Oh, somebody's talking about ice. So there's probably going to be some clouds we're going to go through here shortly. All right, so the speeds we use when we're taking off, you probably saw clicking across the Check Kinlan, 6 Charlie Kilo. The airspeeds you saw ticking across the airspeed indicator here were climb 230, 6 Charlie Kilo. All right. So that controller just sent us up to 23,000 feet. All right, so some of the speeds we saw coming off the field there were, the first one was what's called V1, which is takeoff decision speed. At that point, you probably saw me lift my handles off the thrust levers. That's the point at which I am not going to stop. If something happens after that speed, if I blow a tire, if I lose an engine, it's safer to continue to my rotation speed. And rotation means pulling back on the yoke to make the airplane fly. It's safer to go ahead and keep accelerating and take off with the blown tire or the dead engine and come around and land. Anything below that speed, if something happens below that speed, I'm going to stop the airplane on the ground. So that's the big speed you saw ticking along. The other one was VR, which is rotation. That's when I'm going to start pulling back on the yoke and make the airplane fly. And then the other speed that came across was V2, which is that's the speed at which I would fly out at a single engine. So after I get it in the air, if I lost an engine, I would climb at that V2 speed.
November 317, Mike Papa, contact Indy Center 133.05.
3305, Mike Papa. All right, so right now, the controller has this, or the way everything's working here is, let's see if I can clean this up and show you here a little bit. So here's our route. I'll zoom out. Here is Cincinnati, where we just took off from. Kind of bumpy here. That little airplane depicts where we are, obviously. I'll zoom in.
November 46, Charlie Kilo, direct volunteer.
Direct volunteer, thank you. 6 Charlie Kilo. All right, so what before was we were going to follow this track down to Kinlan, to Lexington, and then volunteer, which is in Tennessee. Now the controller's just cleared us direct to volunteer, which is great. So I'm going to tell the computer we're going directly there. Execute. You can see the dotted line it drew. I just executed it in the computer. Now the airplane is going to make a turn. We're making a turn, and we're going direct to that point in Tennessee. All right. All right, what else can we talk about here on our climb out? Oh, we're about to pass through the cloud layer here. It's going to get bright. And we picked up a little bit of ice. Ice always likes to hang out right in the top layer of clouds. You can see the wing out there. I'm about to blow what ice we have on there off.
Center Challenger 832, Sierra Charlie, direct Falmouth.
A little bit of a layer on there. It's warming up. There it goes, starting to crack.
Indy Center 123.77.
2377, 6 Charlie Kilo.
November 832, Sierra Charlie, Indy Center, Roger. Climb and maintain flight level 210.
All right, now we got a clean wing again. All right, that buzzing sound means it's 1,000 feet to level off. Coming through 29,000 feet, coming up.
46 Charlie Kilo, climb maintain flight 360.
Oh, not anymore. Flight level 360, 6 Charlie Kilo. All right, so the controller just told us to climb to 36,000 feet.
370, good morning. Southwest 3812, Indy Center, good morning.
And it is getting bright.
Traffic just maintain flight level 330. Okay, 10 right.
Time for some sunglasses. The other thing is that sun really radiates, you know, once you get up here. You know, it was a dull, cold day in Cincinnati, but already the sun just radiates. You get a lot of greenhouse effect once you get up, you know, in some altitude here. Center Premier, 46 Charlie Kilos, leveling 370.
46 Charlie Kilo, and Center welcome.
All right, so we just leveled off, so you're going to see our speed start to accelerate here. That little pink line sprouting out above the 205 is called a trend line.
46 Charlie Kilo, climb and maintain flight level 410.
Flight level 410, 6 Charlie Kilo. Alright, so she just gave us 41.
With you, flight level 390.
United 1094, New Center, welcome.
41,000 feet.
317 Mike Papa.
So I'm going to initiate the climb. I got to hit a button. I got to tell it how fast I want it to climb. So I'm adjusting our climb rate right here.
6 Zulu 430.
There's 600 feet a minute, 700 feet a minute.
Southwest 3726.
We'll just put in like a.
On 124.87.
We'll just put in 1,000 feet a minute, and the airplane will start to climb. This is what we're actually doing. This is what I set. There we go. We're at 900 feet a minute. There's 1,000 feet a minute. We're climbing. So that pink line's what we call a trend line, and it disappeared now because we started climbing again, which takes some of our forward energy and makes us go up. But basically, that trend shows us wherever the tip of that pink line is where the speed of the airplane will be in 10 seconds. So 10 seconds from now, we will be at whatever speed that was at. All right, we can walk around some other things here.
Center, good morning, British 5284, Bible 3.
Zoom out here.
British 5284, New Center, welcome.
See the rest of the United States. It's an upside down United States. There's our BOR, or our point in Tennessee we're going to navigate to, and then from there to a point in northern Florida. And then we start the arrival. This is the state of Florida upside down here. Right over here, Sarasota sits on the Gulf side. And pull up some data. This is the screen I usually fly around in. We can see Lunken, that's where we took off from, is 105 nautical miles behind us. That's the time we took off, the 1418. Volunteer, that point in Tennessee, is 88 miles away. We'll be there in 13 minutes, and at this Zulu time, 1450 Zulu. And that's the next point in the flight plan. And then the last point is Sarasota. That's the airport we're going to. It's 621 miles away from where we are on our track. I mean, on our flight plan, on our routing. It's 620 miles away. We'll be there in an hour and 30 minutes at this Zulu time. And we'll have this much gas on board. We use everything in pounds for airplanes, for jet fuel. So we'll have 1,800 pounds of fuel on board, and the airplane will weigh 10,300. So pretty light, actually. I mean, this airplane's light in general, but there isn't any people on board, so I filled it up with fuel, you know, so we save money in Cincinnati with fuel. But yeah, and these numbers aren't exactly accurate because we're going slow right now. We're using our energy to climb. So once we level off, you know, all these numbers will shoot up. Our speed will shoot up. How much fuel we'll have will increase, and how much we will weigh when we land will increase, and this number will decrease how much time we have before we get there. All right, so there's the buzzer. We got 1,000 feet to level off. Okay, so we're officially in the cruise portion of the flight. This is where things get boring, especially if you're doing a long leg, like across the country or something.
Hello, Atlanta, FlexJet 1361, checking in 430.
You know, like New York to Phoenix or LA or something. So we just leveled off, and this is kind of where we want to go through and make sure that, you know, as the airplane accelerates, everything's where we want it. So what I like to do right after I'm in cruise, and I double check that the airplane's coordinated how I want, my throttle settings are where I want, and I usually check on the passenger comfort. I check all the temperatures in the cabin. Then I'll start walking through the airplane system by system. Not necessarily in any order I just mentioned, but but at some point I do all these things as soon as we level off. And as I come across, you know, I can see my hydraulic pressure down here is in the green. It's kind of a bad angle for you to see. Hydraulic pressure's in the green. We're accelerating nicely. You see a little bit of a pink line sprouting out of there. We're getting a little bit faster there. We're at 41,000 feet. You can see now the numbers are coming down. Hour and 23 minutes. That'll keep getting lower and lower. We are currently, we have a true airspeed of 413, which is our airspeed corrected for temperature, and it's accelerating. We'll end up about 440 as we get up on plane, just like a boat, an airplane. You got to think of air when you're moving this fast through it. Air acts a lot like water, and the airplane acts like a boat on the water. So we're accelerating, we're getting up on plane. There's already 418. We'll get up to about 440. The GS is our ground speed, so that's how fast we're moving across the ground in knots, which is 430 is right around 500 miles per hour. This is our wind. Currently the wind is coming from a little bit, we got a quartering tailwind of 43 knots. So that's helping us out, making us go a little faster. You can already see that you know, we got 421 true, and then 434 across the ground. So that's just the angle of you know, how that wind's helping us. I'm also going to look at my electrical. We don't have any crazy weird amperage loads. These are our amps on each generator. I can also look at the voltage that each generator is putting out. So all our systems are looking good. Fuel. These are our fuel tanks. Each wing holds our fuel, and currently each wing has about 1,400 pounds in it. One of them has 40 more pounds than the other. That's no big deal. We wouldn't want to see any more than 200 pounds difference. Over here we have our pressurization system. Outside it's 41,000 feet, but inside the cabin right now, it is 8,000 feet. So this needle shows our cabin altitude. This needle shows our cabin differential, which is right about 8.4 right now, 8.2. Okay. There's our pressurization controller. I have it set to the field elevation in Sarasota, which is 0. All of our standby gauges, which match all of our you know, primary gauges. This is the co-pilot's panel, which we don't have today, and everything looks good there. It matches mine. This airplane is special in that it's allowed for single pilot. Most jets require 2 pilots. In the last few years, there's been more and more pop up that allow for 1 pilot. Now that doesn't necessarily, just because it's certified for 1 pilot, doesn't mean you can just hop in and fly 1 pilot. Every jet requires what's called a type rating to fly it, and a type rating is basically a license, a specific license just for that jet. So on top of having the license for this jet, you have to have a license on top of that, which allows you to fly it by yourself. So it is a special license on top of the regular license. Otherwise, you have to fly it with a co-pilot. And then here's the other loophole. This is the biggest one. Just because you have said license to fly it by yourself, oh, put the sunshade here, does not mean that the insurance companies will let you fly it by yourself. It's the insurance companies that actually secretly, going on here, let's get a good, it's the insurance companies that actually write all the rules. So even if you had the license to fly it single pilot, the insurance company may say that you don't have enough experience to do it. I have oodles of time in this particular airplane. I travel all over the country flying this particular jet. This is the Premier Beech Premier 1A. This particular one's a 1A. They also make a Premier 1. I fly all over the country flying people's airplanes, flying these particular airplanes for people, doing contract work. This one is the one I manage and fly in Cincinnati. This is my main baby. But so we're at cruise right now. We've got about another hour of cruise. You can see we're accelerating now. Since I've been talking, we're at 438 knots true, 450 knots across the ground, which is well above 500 miles per hour. And we've got about an hour and 14 minutes en route. So just to spare you guys the boring sitting here staring at the gauges that I have to do, I'm going to shut the cameras down, and I will check back in with you right as we're starting our descent into Sarasota when the action pops back up again. All right, guys, just wanted to check in, give you an update of what's going on so far. We're still in cruise flight, but something just popped in my head to talk about here. To give you an update on the flight, where we're at. We are 59 minutes to go, 436 miles out from Sarasota. We got a true airspeed of 442 knots, a ground speed of 445. But we made a turn after volunteer, so the wind is at a different angle, so our ground speed isn't as great as it was. But here's the thought I had. The other day somebody asked me, you know, I've been flying for over 20 years now, and something that came up is, you know, how things have changed since I first started flying to now. And of course, the technology is way beyond, but something I use all the time. I just wanted to give a shout out to these people because I think they're doing awesome stuff. I mean, it saves me so much time. It's the ForeFlight app, F-O-R-E flight.com. And whether you're a student pilot or if you're a professional pilot, I'm sure you already know about it. But I use it every day before I fly. Here's an example of what we're doing here. This is the ForeFlight app on the iPad. And let me see if I can get it to where there's no glare. You can see here's our this is just an iPad mini. Here's where we are right now. We're coming up almost a beam with Atlanta. I put in our whole route before we took off. If I hit the flight plan button here, you can see that's our whole route, which matches the flight plan I filed. And neat thing about this is this thing is being fed weather. I can see all the weather for the entire country across. All right, guys, we are on our descent back into Sarasota. We're currently coming through 28,000 feet for 27,000 feet. I'm getting ready to check in with this controller.
46 Charlie Kilo, descending out of flight level 260, across Walter at 13,000.
Down to 260 across Walter at 13,000, 6 Charlie Kilo.
6 Charlie Kilo, the approximate 3044.
Roger. All right, so he just gave us a descent down to 26,000 and to cross a fix at 13,000. On different layers here. I can turn on traffic. I can see other airplanes around me on here. That's pretty neat. I don't usually have the traffic on. I think it's a little too cluttered at altitude moving at these speeds, but if I was in a small little Cessna or something, that could be pretty darn valuable. A big thing I use is, where I use this the most is my pre-flight planning. For instance, TFRs. There's a TFR over Atlanta right now because POTUS is coming in on Monday, so they're getting everything ready for this. There's a game on Monday, so I guess a college football game or something. So I'm actually flying into Nashville on Monday, so that was for us. Direct Heaven, 6 Charlie Kilo. I'm actually flying into Nashville on Monday, so I've been paying attention to it a little bit. So the controller just cleared us to this point down the road here. It's a pretty popular point in northern Florida. That's going to save us some time and give us a better angle to the wind, so we'll get some more speed out of it. But where this app really comes into play is in the pre-flight planning stage. You know, I can pull up all this stuff. Here's our entire route into Sarasota. You can see some weather over here. This is live radar feeds coming through that box I just pointed 2 on the window. You can see these range rings coming off the airplane. If I wanted to see how far away something was, like this lake over here from the airplane, I can hold down my finger on here. It draws this line, and I can see how many miles away it is, how long it would take at this speed to get there. See, it says 7 minutes to get there. So it's just got some neat stuff in it. There's all kinds of layers and stuff it'll do. What I use it for mainly is my pre-flight planning. So I have the same thing. Oh, there's a picture of the plane in the Hellcat. I have the same thing in my phone. I can go in here. I pull up ForeFlight before I even take off. Before I even take off, I can see all this. There's the winds aloft that loaded before we took off. I can see winds aloft. Like I said, there's every weather layer in there. Complex weather to, the simplest stuff. I can pull up, here's another thing. This is all being fed, through that box. I can pull up the weather in Sarasota right now. I hit this, tap on Sarasota.
We'll go down.
I get all the frequencies of Sarasota, radio frequencies. See, all this used to be pulled off a chart back in the old days. I can see a quick airport diagram. I can pull up live weather. This is the METAR right now. There's the actual, how the METAR is read, the code. And then it even breaks down in plain English what all that means. Right now in Sarasota, 10 miles visibility, clear sky, 54 degrees. I thought it'd be a little warmer than that, but well, this is only 15 minutes ago. We still got an hour. It'll probably warm up pretty significantly by the time we get there. Either way, it's going to be way warmer than Cincinnati was. But anyway, there's the current weather. We can see forecast. So you can see whether you're a professional pilot or a student pilot. This ForeFlight thing has changed the way we do our pre-flight planning and even our en-route stuff. Not only do I have this iPad mini here in the cockpit with me, I like it because, I can put it on the, well, at one point I was putting it on the yoke a lot, but it just gets in the way. I don't do that anymore. But I also have a full-size, large iPad that I use for the back, my passengers. I set up for the passengers and use it as kind of like an air show. Air show is a name of, they can see where we're at, they can see how fast we're going, all that kind of stuff in the back. And the passengers like that, they can see what they're on over top. If they can zoom in on something and see what lake that is or what mountain range that is, whatever. The passengers love it. And I can set up this, there's a data strip on the bottom. Right now, I don't know why it's saying 2 hours to destination, probably because it doesn't.
South of 3726, contact Jacksonville.
Actually, that was my fault.
5.05, it looks like you can expect an
So,
course vector for spacing from them.
Well, don't worry about it. Anyway, you can see all this stuff down along the bottom here. 524 miles an hour across the ground. I put it in, miles per hour, so where are we at? 523 is 455 knots. Anyway, all that stuff set up in the back for the passengers on a larger iPad that they can play with, and they love it. So anyway, ForeFlight is the name of the app, and whether you're a student pilot or professional pilot, it is an amazing thing. There it is. Just thought about that. We'll catch back up with you when we start our descent into Sarasota. All right, guys. We are on our descent back into Sarasota. We're currently coming through 28,000 feet for 27,000 feet. I'm getting ready to check in with this controller. And one of the things we're going to do here is get our weather over at Sarasota, so that same frequency we dialed in, or not the same frequency, but a frequency like we dialed in at Cincinnati, we're going to dial in over in Sarasota and see what the weather's doing over there. All right, so we listen to that weather.
240, Mason, Bravo, weather observation 1453 Zulu, wind 060 at 9er, visibility 10, sky clear below 12,000, temperature 2.05, altimeter 3040, visual approaching use, landing and departing runway 14 and runway 4. Land and hold short operations are in effect. Control and clearance delivery are combined on frequency 121.9. All aircraft free back runway assignment and hold short instructions. Eyes on initial contact, give ATIS information Bravo. Sarasota Airport information.
All right, ATIS Bravo is what we have.
Clear direct destination 5.
They're landing runway 14, which is good for us. That's straight in for us. That saves us time. We don't have to go around the airport and land the other direction. Okay, so there's one other thing we got to do. We're going to call the FBO, which is FBO stands for Fixed Base Operator, and they're the people that basically the gas station at the local airport here we pull up to. So we're going to give them we're about 15 minutes out, actually less than that. If we fly the whole approach is 50. We're about 12 minutes out.
It is information Charlie's current at Sarasota.
Nope, information Charlie. They just
1123, contact Tampa.
They just updated the weather.
1965 United 1123, yeah.
November 6 Charlie Kilo, comply with center restrictions, send us to maintain 1000.
All right, we'll comply with the restriction and then down to 1000, 6 Charlie Kilo.
Rings 812, reduce to 250, then us to maintain.
All right, let's get the new weather.
You're in effect, ground control and clearance delivery are combined on frequency 121.9. All aircraft free back runway assignment and hold short instructions. Eyes on initial contact, give ATIS information Charlie. Sarasota Airport information Charlie. Weather observation 1549 Zulu. Wind 070 at 10. Visibility 10. Sky clear below 12,000. Temperature 2.06. Altimeter 3038. Visual approaching use. Landing and departing runway 14 and runway 4. Land and hold short operations are in effect. Ground control and clearance delivery are combined on frequency 1.
Okay, not much changed on the weather.
Okay, direct laser.
We'll get some local altimeter settings set here because we're through 18,000 now.
Texan 215, proceed active tower.
All right, so now the controller is wanting us to slow down to 210 knots and then descend to 6,000. So we must be in a line. There must be a line of airplanes to get into Sarasota. And there is. We can actually see. I'm going to move this camera after all that trouble. But you can actually see the line of airplanes. Heading 190, 6 Charlie Kilo. You can actually see the line of airplanes coming into Sarasota here. Those little dots are other airplanes. Because now she's just giving us a turn to get us away from some of these people.
340 for 43.
American 773, flighting 180, enable direct spikes, resume on navigation.
All right, so now we're going to call the FBO. Get that FBO called.
And last call, say again.
Retric South, Premier 46 Charlie Kilo.
Go ahead, son.
Ha! How's it going? We're about 15 minutes out from being on your ramp, coming in empty, picking up 4 people in about an hour or less. We'll take, just need some fuel. We'll need 100 gallons per side positive, please.
Okay, 100 per side, positive, coming in empty. Anything else?
Some newspapers and a small bag of ice, please.
Okie doke, CM15.
All right, Kelly, thanks.
And Reddick, November 522 Alpha Charlie.
All right, so you can tell that
522 Alpha Charlie.
You can tell that I'm in there a lot. That the
4 Charlie Papa, contact approach 119.
the girl working the desk knows me by my voice on the radio.
351 flighting 270.
So all right.
3265 descend to maintain 5,000.
So we're slowed down. We're doing what the controller wants us here.
November 6 Charlie Kilo, contact approach 119.65 and descend to maintain 6,000.
All right, down to 6,000. We're on our way down to 6 and doing 210 on the knots and 119 or 65. See ya, 6 Charlie Kilo.
Yeah.
5 turn left heading 270.
270,
All right, so they're busy. So we're going to try to minimize the camera shenanigans here.
Volunteer 4810 departure register. I then climb maintain 3,000.
I then climb maintain 3,000, volunteer 488.
Tampa approach Premier 46 Charlie Kilos, 9,000 for 6,000, 210 on the speed.
Jet 46 Charlie Kilo 10 approach, roger. 1123, have a good day, contact tower 120.1.
24-1, yeah, 1123, see ya.
Yeah. Volunteer 48, proceed direct section.
Direct section, Volunteer 488.
November 60155, turn left, heading 17 Joe, join left on approach, first track inbound.
Perfect. I think I just found the perfect spot.
I'm excited. 170.
Oh, why that's bugging me so much.
Command Jet 46 Charlie Kilo, expect vectors today. You're number 3 for the airport today, so expect vectors not to Sarasota.
Roger. We'll expect that. We're trying to slow down for you. All right. So basically,
365 Delta Sierra, turn right.
he's telling us they're super busy. You're coming blasting in there. I mean, there's probably some slower airplanes ahead of us here.
120.1, 60155.
November 27 Whiskey Papa Tampa, reduce speed to 170 knots.
177, Whiskey Papa.
So,
Tampa, you get
all right. So we got our speed.
And,
We're heading out a little bit away from everything. We're heading away from the coast. This is Tampa Bay over here. You can see, if you look close, I don't know if this camera's going to pick it up. I'll try to zoom in and post in the edit. But the Sunshine Skyway Bridge is right over there. The wingtip's pointing at it.
Left heading 090, descend and maintain 4,000.
Left heading east down to 4,000, 6 Charlie Kilo.
November 522 up at Charlie Town approach, roger, expect runway 14. What is your current heading?
Current heading 330.
Roger, make that heading 350, please.
350, 522 up at Charlie.
Approach 6 Charlie Kilo. Verify the altitude. We already had 3,000.
3,500. November 55 uniform, turn right, heading 220.
Right 220, 55 uniform. Southwest 5207.
All right, so we're in a line of airplanes here, going slow.
8,000, Southwest 5207.
Maintain VFR 2,100.
Sending VFR 2,100.
November 565 Delta Sierra, descend and maintain VFR 3,000.
All right, so he's got us in a weird turn. This is not the typical way we go into Sarasota. You look over here, that's Tampa. Approach 6 Charlie Kilo. Just verify the altitude. We already had 3,000 at one point. Just gave us 4,000.
Number 46 Charlie Kilo, tap the push, continue to descend out to maintain 2,000.
2,000, 6 Charlie Kilo. Got it.
Put you guys in there shortly, guys. There's a couple guys on front. We need to get in.
No problem.
Number 27 Whiskey Papa, just reduce.
All right. So the runway is just to the right of the forward-facing camera. He's got us. He turned us, let us fly across the inbound course at one point, and now we are.
Level at 3,000 with the flash 9949.
Now we are. He turned us, and we're coming back across the other way. Across the inbound course. Kind of weird, but it's pretty busy. There's airplanes everywhere. And you can hear how much he's talking. He's busy.
Number 27 Whiskey Papa, turn right heading 360.
Right turn 360.
Volunteer 48, contact 4 miles approach 125.15.
25.15, Volunteer 48.
Southwest 52.
All right, this is the Tampa Bay off the left, off that left camera. You're seeing Tampa Bay, the one with the wing in it, and we're going to get a shot of the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. It looks like maybe.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Road 79 Bravo Golf back with you, heading 090 1006.
Number of Golf Champ approach, roger, sir. And you guys going to go to Barstow right now, you said?
Yeah, we're going up to Lakeland for an approach up there.
November number of Golf Champ approach, roger, sir. Ident maintain 2,000.
Ident maintain 2,000, now Bravo Golf.
369949, turn left, heading 360.
Left 360, District 9949.
Number of Golf to contact 4 miles east.
All right, we got our airplane cleaned up as far as.
369949, tap another lake, climb, maintain 12000, 12,000.
I'm going to reset some speeds here.
Number 46 Charlie Kilo, turn back to the right heading 220.
Back to the right heading 220, 6 Charlie Kilo. Alright, here's a right turn. Right over there is the Sunshine Skyway Bridge, which goes right across the Tampa Bay.
8,522 up trust. 42 Mike over Bennett for Sarasota landing.
42 Mike, command 35, give me a call back in 10 minutes, please.
10 minutes.
42 Mike.
Number 2 Sun Whiskey Papa, turn right heading 110.
110, Sun.
Number 46 Charlie Kilo, still maintain 1,600.
1,600, we have the field in sight when it helps you, 6 Charlie Kilo.
2,500.
Alright, 1,600, we're going to keep coming down. He's basically zigzagging us across the final here. I don't know if you can see this line, the airplane, but we flew across it once. Now we're going to go back across this way. He's zigzagging us all the way in. The airport is now over here off my left shoulder.
Direct lake landing, climb maintain 3,000.
Getting lower.
6 Charlie Kilo, square base to final clear, division approach to 14.
Alright, we'll square it up, clear for the visual 14, 6 Charlie Kilo. Alright, square it up. So we're going to keep keep everything lined up here. Or squared up so we don't get too close to somebody.
Over 55 uniform, turn left heading 180. 55 uniform. 699, 49 there's traffic, VU4 1205, 8 miles north down, VU4 9,500 feet.
949, 30.
Number 212 for Charlie.
Alright, we're in a left turn to line up with the runway. He gave it to us a little late, so we're not exactly lined up with it, but that's alright, we'll catch it.
92 Golf Mike, 6 miles northeast, landing Sarasota. Range 46 Charlie Kilo, just help me for now, guys.
Stay in here, 6 Charlie Kilo.
46 Charlie Kilo, cleared, request to 14, contact tower 120.1.
Clear for the visual, the 14 going to tower, 6 Charlie Kilo. Alright, so there we are, we're cleared for the visual again, which you already did once. We're going to go to the tower. This is the Sarasota Tower we're talking to now. Sarasota Tower, Premier 46 Charlie Kilo, visual 14. And there's a guy out in front of us, he's less than 5 miles. That's, this guy right here is going to screw us up. Okay, number 1, clear to land, 6 Charlie Kilo. Looks like there's somebody out in front of us, 500 feet below us.
He's turning now. I'm going to see if there's another crossing runway behind you.
Okay, alright, good deal. Clear to land, number 1, runway 14, 6 Charlie Kilo. Alright, we're clear to land. That sound is the autopilot coming off. And I'm speeding it up a little bit, just to give us everybody space in this line coming in. I can't put the flaps or gear down above 200 knots, but we were doing like 150 knots. So I'm going to go ahead and speed it up to 200 here just for a second to put some space in between everybody since we're number 1.
155, turn base on runway 04 is good land, but Premier Jet about 2.5 miles on runway 14.
And we'll let this go for a little bit.
Continue on 7 Whiskey Papa, if they would just reduce the final approach speed, number 3 to field, traffic 2 miles west of the field.
1,000.
Runway.
Alright, so the other airplane's off our right. He's 2 miles away, same altitude. Alright. Well, we're about 800 feet off the ground right now. This is a little bit of a higher performance approach, but we got plenty of runway. Just trying to space everything out for people. I got the spoilers out, helping slow us down. About 180 knots right now.
500.
Gears coming down. Alright, that's bumpy down here. Windy. There we go, there's our final flaps. Yaw dampers away. We'll line up with the runway here. Oh, it was a nice one. There we go. We got a little bit of a crosswind here. There we go. Actually, pretty good crosswind. Retric south, we can Juliet. Juliet point 9, thanks. 6 Charlie Kilo here. Yeah, I knew the wind was, the wind was right across the runway, gusting to 17 knots. So, right across the runway, gusting 20 miles an hour. Usually we want the wind right down the runway, not gusting across the runway. So, I don't know if you could tell, there was some bumps, and I was fighting it a little bit to keep it straight, but still pulled off a pretty smooth landing. All right.
8170 Papa, ready for departure, runway 14.
Ground Premier 46 Charlie Kilo, we just cleared Juliet for Retric South.
November 46 Charlie Kilo, says down, taxi park.
To the ramp, 6 Charlie Kilo. All right, he just cleared us to the ramp, so we're going to pull in here. I'm cleaning up some after landing stuff. I'm going to write down some numbers. 1 hour and 51 minutes we just made that flight in. 709 nautical miles straight line distance, a little bit further the way we went, and we burned 1,800 pounds of gas.
Main ground, 560 Mike Lima with Charlie, ready for taxi from Retric South.
November 0 Mike Lima, runway 14, taxi via Echo Bravo.
Pulling in the ramp here.
Runway 4 East caution, there's a Premier Jet moving over there, Retric South.
Okay, see the Premier Jet, Echo Bravo Charlie, hold short of runway 4. Mike Lima.
The guy talking is in this little tiny jet right here. This little bitty guy. Oh, no, it's not. I thought it was. Oh, yeah, it is. He's in there. He's ducked down. Welcome to Florida. It's 60-some degrees. This guy's got a hat on. You think it'd be super cold outside, but it's not. All right, we're here. Shut down some stuff. I shut down my avionics.
Alright guys, that was Cincinnati to Sarasota the easy way in the private jet. Just getting some fuel here, waiting on some passengers, and we'll be right back out to Cincinnati again. Let me know what you think of this video. You know, should I keep doing more stuff like this? Let me know what you think, and I'll keep putting more. Oh, here comes the line guy. What's up, man? sorry, making a YouTube video. What's up? This is Fox. He runs the show here at Retric South. Like I was saying, you guys, let me know what you think of this video. If it's in the wheelhouse of what you guys like, did I explain things too much, not enough, whatever. Leave some comments. Hit that thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button. Anyway, we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in.